Hello everyone, welcome to Yashas Academy CA Foundation classes. My name is Mayur. I am a chartered accountant. I am teaching at Yashas Academy for the past 8 years and I will be teaching you all accountancy. This paper is a subjective paper, unlike maths and economics. It is a paper of 100 marks. We will provide you with a study material. This material is exhaustive. It covers the entire syllabus of ICAI. It covers all the questions given in ICAI study material, revision test papers, past examinations, and also the mock test papers. Along with this video, we will also share with you a soft copy of the material for your reference. We will be discussing first certain rules and routines which you should follow while preparing for CA Foundation examination or for any professional examination as such. Rule number 1, read every day. Rule number 2, fix study time. Fix your study timing. If you are studying every day in the night from 8 to 12, ensure that you follow that routine every day on a daily basis. Number 3, this material which we are going to give it to you has to be revised 5 times. Reading it only once, I assure you, you will not be able to recall in exam anything. Minimum 5 revision is required. 3 times handwritten practice is required and 2 times reading is required. Balance 2 times you should read the question and answer. Prepare summary for each and every chapter. Write the key points and formulas. You can ask any questions related to the subject to us. We will be sharing our mobile number, and we will also ensure that once in a week we conduct a live session wherein we can take up your doubts and queries. Now let us discuss the syllabus and pattern, paper pattern. Let us discuss the syllabus and paper pattern of accountancy subject. There will be totally 6 questions which will be asked in the paper, out of which question number 1 will be compulsory and it will be of 20 marks. It is generally a theory questions like true and false, write short notes, distinguish between 2 or more items, and sometimes even some practical question might be asked. After that, we will be required to attend any 4 questions out of the remaining 5 questions. Each question will be of 20 marks. So totally how many questions will be there in the paper? In accountancy paper, there will be totally 6 questions. It's a subjective paper. First question will be compulsory. The first question will be of 20 marks. Out of the remaining 5 questions, we will be required to attend any 4. Generally, the first question is theory question. It is based on true and false, distinguish between 2 items, write short notes, etc. Now let us discuss the section-wise weightage for subjects under the scheme. The paper is of 100 marks, accountancy. This is your syllabus and also how many marks will be asked from which chapter, what is the weightage of each and every chapter in your paper. Chapter number 1 is theoretical framework. This will be asked for 5 to 10 marks in exam. In chapter number 1, theoretical framework, we have the following 8 topics, subtopics, which our institute has kept in our syllabus. The first topic is meaning and scope of accounting. followed by accounting concepts, principles, and conventions, then terminology, capital and revenue expenditure, accounting policies, accounting as a measurement discipline, accounting standards, Indian accounting standards. So these 8 topics will be asked for 5 to 10 marks. It's a full theory topic. All the 8 topics will not be discussed at one go because it becomes very boring for the students to do all the 8 topics of theory at a go. So some topics we'll discuss initially, then we'll go to some other chapter, then again we'll come back to the first chapter and we'll discuss more theory topics. So everything will be discussed, but gradually. The second chapter is accounting process. In this chapter, we'll be learning how to pass journal entries, how to prepare ledger accounts, how to prepare trial balance, rectification of errors. The weightage of section 2 is 25 to 30 marks. It comprises of accounting process, bank reconciliation statement, inventories, concept and accounting for depreciation. Now, here I want to tell to my science background students, friends, you don't have to worry. If you are even a science background student, we will be taking up the classes from the very base. We will be teaching you from the very base. We will assume that you all don't know anything. We'll start from A and we'll take you up to Z. Definitely, you all have to put a lot of efforts at home, because commerce background students will have an added advantage as compared to you all, because they have learned this subject for the past 2 years. So definitely they will have an edge over you, but it doesn't mean that you cannot become at par with them. If you put little more 1 hour, 2 hours extra efforts at home, then definitely you will be able to cope up. So 25 to 30 marks will be asked from second topic. It comprises of accounting process, BRS, inventories, then concept and accounting of depreciation. The third section will be asked in exam for 15 to 20 marks. And the name of the chapter is accounting for special transaction. It has 5 subtopics: bills of exchange, sale of goods and approval, consignments, average due date, account current. These are the 5 subtopics which will be covered in chapter number 6. And these 5 subtopics will be asked in exam for 15 to 20 marks. Then comes the 4th section, which will be asked for 30 to 40 marks in exam. The weightage of this is 30 to 40 marks in exam. The 4th section comprises of chapters like final accounts, partnership accounts, and non-profit organization. So from these 3 chapters, our institute will ask 30 to 40 marks. It's a subjective paper. It's not an MCQ paper like economics and maths. So we have to write everything in detail, and we will be discussing everything in details in class. How to write the paper in exam, etc. And then 10 to 15 marks will be asked from company accounts. Company accounts had 3 subtopics: definition of shares and debentures, which is theory; issue of shares and debentures; forfeiture of shares; reissue of forfeited shares; statement of profit and loss and balance sheet as per Schedule 3 to Companies Act 2013. So these are the topics. This is your entire syllabus, and this is the marks weightage of each and every chapter. We will be providing you with this study material. You will get the soft copy, and if possible, you will also get the hard copy, which you can take it from the institute's office. depending upon the lockdown conditions. But still we'll be sharing the soft copy of this with you. This material has been designed by keeping the ICS study material in mind. This material contains theory as well as the practical questions which are relevant for your examination. You don't have to refer any other material. If you are thorough with the material which we are giving it to you, if you have read this material 5 times, if you have revised this material 5 times, I'm telling again, I repeat again, 5 times, it is more than enough for you. You don't have to refer any other material, I repeat, if you are thorough with this material. It is exhaustive. It contains all the varieties of questions which are required for your examination purpose. It also has a lot of practice questions. So with this, let us start with our accountancy syllabus. Let us start with our accountancy course. The first chapter which we will be discussing is theoretical framework. So this would be the first chapter. Hello friends, in this video we will be learning about what is accounting, how to make accounts, why to make accounts, what is the connection of accounts with business, and how is it related to money. All these things we'll be discussing in this video. According to textbook definition, accounting is an art of identifying, measuring, recording, classifying, summarizing, and finalizing financial transactions and events and interpreting the results thereof. I am sure after listening to it, you must not have understood a word. And how would you? Because you are listening to this term for the very first time. You must be thinking right now, sir, is accounts really so complicated? Or is it tough? The answer is not at all. Let us begin to understand this term with an example. Suppose since many days you have had a plan to open a restaurant. Finally, you rented a shop on hire and decorated it. You bought furniture and set up the restaurant. You have also hired a good chef who would cook for your customer. And you have finally started your restaurant business. Your business was going on really good and your customers were really liking your restaurant food. After a month into the business, you decided to calculate the profits. But when you sat down for the calculation, you realized that you had no record of expenses incurred by you, due to which you are not able to calculate the profits. Seeing you in tension, 2 of your customers asked you the reason for your worry and you explained them your situation. After a long discussion, they suggested that you should keep record of each and every activity or event in your business which involves money. For example, if you have made any payment or received any money, you should record it. You loved this idea. And from the very next day, you started keeping an account in your laptop. Any business activity which occurred involving money in it, you used to record it on a daily basis, be it receiving money from your customer or making any payment for something, you used to record it. After 1 month, you decided to calculate the profits, and this time you were quite confident that you will be able to calculate profits more accurately because you have made a record. So now you noticed after 1 month that your total sales was 3 lakh, your purchases was 1,50,000, salary was 20,000, rent payment was 20,000, electricity charges was 5,000, other charges was 5,000. Finally, after all this, your profit came up to rupees 1 lakh. Here, I would like to say one thing, which is that since you recorded all the transactions here and then calculated your profit, this process of recording the transaction and calculating the profit is called accounting. Now, let's get back to the definition which we have seen earlier and re-understand it with the example, with this example. According to textbook definition, accounting is an art of identifying, measuring, recording, classifying, summarizing, and finalizing financial transactions and events and interpreting the results thereof. I am sure after listening to it, you must not have understood. Now you must have understood all the steps which are involved in accounting. Let me explain it to you. Step 1, identifying. You identified which all business transaction involved money, like in which all transactions you received money from customer, and you recorded it under the head sales. If you have purchased goods, you have recorded it under the head purchases. This is what is called identifying your business transaction which involves money and then recording it under the various heads like sales, like purchases, etc. Step 2 is measurement. Step 2 is measurement. Here you have valued all your transactions in money terms, like how much sales you have made in terms of money, etc. Step 3 is recording. Recording on a daily basis each and every transaction which involved money. Step 4 is classification. In this step, you have classified which transaction was a sale transaction, which transaction was a purchase transaction, which transaction was a salary transaction, which transaction is a rent transaction. Step 5, summarize. Then you have summarized everything for 1 month relating to how much was the total sales, total purchase, total salary, total rent, total electricity for entire 1 month, which is called summarizing. Step 6 is finalizing. Step 6 is finalizing. Here you have finally deducted all the expenses from sales to calculate profit. So this is called identifying, measuring, recording, classifying, summarizing, and finalizing. Now you can interpret the results. Results matlab profit. The final step here is interpreting the profits, which means you can analyze every day, every data, and you can understand on what costs you need a control, what measures can be taken to increase your profit. By this, you can make an analysis that which all measures will bring growth to your business. You can decide one more thing, which is to earn a profit of 1 lakh, you made a sales of 3 lakh. If you want to make 2 lakh of profits, how much sales you would need to make? This is called interpreting the results thereof. Here I have just explained the definition of accounting. What is accounting? Why do we need accounting? how do we do accounting? But there are many more terms which are used in accounting, like what is transaction, what is debit, what is credit. All these things we will learn gradually. So in the video, we learned about the definition of accounting. Now we will understand the next terminology, which is meaning of transaction and event. So for this, we will take up one more video to understand properly the meaning of transactions and events. Transactions and events. Transactions are the acts performed by a business. These are the conscious acts performed by any business. And it would include purchase of goods, sale of goods, investments made, incurring expenses, earning incomes. Events are consequences of transactions carried out during the year by the business. It normally includes profit, depreciation, and closing stock. Let us understand what transaction and events are using a simple example of Mr. Anurag, a businessman, and who wants to purchase and sell milk. So he purchases 15 units of Amul Taza milk at ₹10 and keeps it for sale. The first buyer walks in and purchases 1 unit of milk. Second buyer walks in and purchases second unit of milk. Third buyer walks in and purchases third unit of milk. All these were sold at ₹15 per unit. If we analyze the stock position of Anurag, he has purchased 15 units in the morning and he was able to sell 3 units during the day, and at the end of the day he had a closing stock of 12 units. Purchases made by him were a conscious act performed by the business and qualifies as a transaction. Similarly, sales were also conscious act made by Anurag and would qualify as transaction. However, closing stock is the result of purchase and sale made by him during the day. So it will be called event. Let us calculate profit of Mr. Anurag. He made purchases of 15 units at 150 rupees. He made sales of 3 units at 45 rupees. He made closing stock. He has a closing stock of 12 units at 120 rupees at the rate of 10 per unit, which is cost price. So his profit is 15 rupees. This profit is also classified as event because it is the result of purchase and sale of milk at ₹15 and 10 respectively. So purchases and sales are transactions. Profit is event. Profit of 15 is event. And closing stock is also event, which are the consequences of purchase and sales during the day. So let us summarize. Transactions and events. Transactions are conscious acts performed by business. Example, purchase and sales. Events are consequences of transactions carried out during the day. Examples can be closing stock and profits. So guys, in the previous video, we learned the meaning of transaction and events. Transaction basically refers to conscious acts performed by business and which involves money and which brings a change in the financial position of a business unit. On the other hand, event refers to the end results of the business transactions, which are the end results of the transactions which has taken place during the year. Let us take up one illustration. So come to question number 1. State with reasons whether the following events are transactions or not to Mr. X. Number 1. So they are asking us to identify whether these are transactions or events. Please do not see the solution. First try it on your own. Number 1. Mr. X started business with capital, brought in cash rupees 40,000. It is a transaction. Why? Because it involves money and it brings a change in the financial position of the business unit. So you write down with a pencil, it is a transaction, or solution is already given. If you don't want to write, then solution already I have given. Second, paid salaries to staff. It is also a transaction. It involves money and it brings a change in the financial position of the entity. Third, purchased machinery for rupees 20,000 in cash. It is a transaction because it involves money, it involves parties, two parties, buyer and seller. It involves exchange of resources between the parties, machinery, and it is a conscious act performed by the business. So it is a transaction. It qualifies as a transaction. Opened a bank account by depositing rupees 4,000. It is also a transaction. Two parties are involved, business unit and bank. Money is involved. So it is a conscious act performed by business entity involving two parties, exchanging resources, involving money. So it is a transaction. Received passbook from bank. Receipt of passbook does not involve any money. It is not a transaction. Appointed Mr. B as a manager. Again, appointment of Mr. B does not involve money, does not involve exchange of resources immediately, so it is not a transaction. Received interest from bank. Yes, it involves money. It brings a change in the financial position of the entity, so it will be called a transaction. If you notice, point number 5 and point number 6, receipt of passbook from bank and appointment of B as a manager does not bring any change in the financial position. So they are not qualified as a transaction. Whereas in adjustment 7, if you see on the screen, when we receive cash, when we receive interest from bank, it changes the financial position of the business, so it will be qualified as a transaction. Received a price list from Mr. B. Receipt of price list is not it will not change the financial position. It will not bring a change in the financial position. It does not involve money. It does not bring a change in the financial position of the business unit. So it will not be qualified as a business transaction. Received free samples, rupees 1,000. We have received free samples, rupees 1,000. Again, it is not a transaction. It will not bring a change in the financial position of the entity. And the last one, gave lift to a supplier in the business car. Again, it is not a transaction because it will not bring a change in the financial position of the entity. So I hope so you understood what is transaction, what is events. Events are the end results of transactions which has happened during the year. Examples are closing stock, profits, etc. Okay, let us proceed ahead. Transactions can be classified into two types: cash transaction, credit transactions, and further classified into external transaction and internal transaction.
So the next topic of discussion is classification of transaction. Basically, a transaction can be classified as cash transaction or credit transaction. Then it can be further subclassified into external transaction and internal transaction. Cash transaction is a transaction which involves immediate cash receipt or payment. So whenever a transaction immediately involves cash or check, then it is called a cash transaction. Say for example, goods sold to Mr. X for cash, rupees 5,000. This is a cash transaction. And credit transaction is a transaction which does not involve immediately cash receipt or payment. Say for example, purchase of goods from Mr. Y on credit. Now in this transaction, the delivery of goods and the receipt and payment of money will take place on two different dates. 5th January, suppose we purchase goods from Mr. Y. So we will receive the delivery of the goods on 5th January. But we paid the cash to Mr. Y on 10th January. So the delivery of goods is taking place on 5th January. The cash payment is being made to Mr. Y on 10th January. So whenever the delivery of goods and the receipt and payment of money takes place on two different dates, any transaction which does not involve immediately cash receipt or payment, then it is known as credit transaction. Then the transactions are further subdivided into external transaction and internal transaction. External transaction refers to those transactions in which a second party is involved with a business entity. A transaction which involves the business entity and a second party. For example, goods sold to Ram. So business entity is involved and a second party, Ram, is involved. Such a transaction is called external transaction. Internal transaction is a transaction which does not involve a second party. Say for example, depreciation charged on machinery. This transaction is called internal transaction. Second party is not involved. Any other party, external party, is not involved in the transaction. The next topic is rules for determining cash or credit transaction. What are the rules for determining whether a transaction is a cash transaction or whether it is a credit transaction? It is observed that students sometimes experience a little difficulty deciding whether a transaction is for cash or is it for credit. If you keep in your mind the following rules, it will help you in deciding whether a particular transaction is cash or whether a particular transaction is credit. Rule number 1, cash purchase, cash sales, and all transactions where the word paid is mentioned, are to be treated as cash transaction. Cash purchase, cash sales, and all transactions where the word paid is mentioned are to be treated as cash transaction. For example, salary paid. For example, goods sold for cash, and so on. All these transactions will be called cash transactions. When a personal name or a name of a firm is mentioned in the transaction, when a personal name or a name of a firm is mentioned in the transaction, then it will be treated as credit transaction. For example, goods sold to X. So the name of the party is involved, Mr. X, and the word paid is not mentioned. The word cash is not mentioned. Then it will be treated as a credit transaction. When both cash word as well as credit word is given in the sentence, when both cash and personal name of the party is mentioned in the transaction, then it will be treated as cash transaction only. For example, goods sold to Y for cash. So the name of the party is also involved, Y, and cash is also involved. it will be treated as a cash transaction. So everybody come to question number 2. Let us decide whether it is a cash transaction or credit transaction. All the commerce background student, it is a request from your teacher. Don't be bored in the first few classes. You have already done all these things in your class 11th and 12th. I agree. We are doing a quick revision of the basic concepts which you have done in class 11 and 12. We are starting from the very base so that those who are science background student, it will become little convenient for them to cope up with the syllabus of accountancy. So do not be irritated, do not be overconfident. Just do not skip the video and go to the main topics. It will be better if you go through these videos, because if you go through these videos, it will be a revision for you all also. Now come to question number 2. In question number 2, they are asking, state whether the following are cash transactions or credit transactions. Sachin commenced business with rupees 1 lakh. Guys, in this transaction, cash is involved. Sachin will give cash to business. So it's a cash transaction. So name of the party is also involved. But cash is also involved. Sachin is giving cash to business. So it will be cash transaction. So, but why it is so important to identify whether a transaction is a cash or credit? Later, subsequently, we will do a chapter called journal entry. In those chapters, these basic discussions which we are doing today, it will be relevant in those chapters. So we are doing these discussions today. Paid rent in advance. Paid, the word paid is given. Cash transaction. Purchased a typewriter for rupees 7,000 from Sen & Co. The name of the party is given. What is given? Name of the party. Paid word is not given. So it is a credit transaction. So if you read the rule, when a personal name of the firm or a party is given in the transaction, it will be treated as credit transaction. For example, goods sold to X. So over here, purchased a typewriter for 7,000 from Sen. So the personal name and the name of the firm is given. The word paid is not given. The word cash is not given. So it will be treated as a credit transaction. You also keep on writing with the pencil. Next, bought furniture from Messrs Modern Furniture for cash. Guys, although the name of the party is given, but even the word cash is given. So it is a cash transaction. Purchase goods from Sohan Brothers for cash rupees 3,000. Again, the word cash is given. Although the name of the party is given, but the word cash is also given. No, so it is a cash transaction. When both cash and personal name are mentioned in the transaction, then it will be treated as a cash transaction. Next. Then they are saying, then the next one they are asking is, sold goods to Sham. Have they mentioned the word received? Have they mentioned the word paid? Have they mentioned the word cash? No. They have given the name of the party. When only the name of the party is given and it is not mentioned, it is for cash, paid, received, words are not given, it is a credit transaction. Bought goods from Ramesh, credit transaction. Paid rent, cash transaction. Paid salary, cash transaction. Received cash, cash transaction. Paid Ramesh, paid word is given, cash transaction. Arthaita. And if any doubt is there, don't worry at all. A live doubt clearing session will be held by Yashas Academy at frequent intervals. And the faculties will also be giving their personal contact numbers. So you can contact the faculties or you can wait for the doubt clearing sessions which will be held at regular intervals, and you can write the doubts in a piece of paper somewhere and you can take up those doubts with the faculties in those live sessions. Okay, everybody? Now come to question number 3. First, you give it a try. Don't see the solution. Don't do cheating. Don't see the solution. Try on your own. And if you forgot the definition of external and internal transaction, read from here. External transaction is a transaction which involves the business entity and a second party. Internal transaction is a transaction which does not involve a second party. So now go for question number 3. Give it a try. State whether the following are external or internal transactions. Purchased a computer from HCL. So business entity is involved and an external party, HCL, is involved. So it is an external transaction. Goods destroyed by fire. This thing took place within the entity. There is no external second party involved. So it is an internal transaction. Goods destroyed by fire. Goods were kept in the warehouse. They were destroyed by fire. Is any other party involved in this transaction? No. So it is an internal transaction. Purchased an electronic typewriter for cash. Yes, business entity is involved and another person is involved from whom we have purchased the electronic typewriter for cash. So it is again which transaction? It is an external transaction because a second outside party is involved. Charged depreciation. No second party is involved. So it is an internal transaction. So whenever a second party is involved in a transaction, we call it external. Whenever a second party is not involved in a transaction, we call it internal transaction. So our next topic of discussion is the difference between bookkeeping and accounting. The difference between bookkeeping and accounting. Basically, bookkeeping involves 4 activities. Number 1 is identifying the transaction, measuring the transactions, measuring the value of the transaction, then recording that transaction, and then classifying the recorded transaction. Say for example, if you remember, we discussed one example at the beginning that you wanted to start a restaurant, and then customer comes to your restaurant, they buy food. So buying of food and giving you money in return is a transaction. So first identify which all activities involve the money and which all are the transactions. Then value those transactions, measure the monetary value of those transactions. Then record it. If it is a sale transaction, record it under the head of sales. If it is a purchase transaction, record it under the head of purchase. This is what is called bookkeeping. These 4 activities is called bookkeeping. Measuring the, identifying the transaction, measuring the transaction, and recording the measured transaction and classifying the recorded transaction. Whereas accounting is in addition to bookkeeping. Accounting in addition to bookkeeping involves summarizing, analyzing, interpreting, and communicating. These are the additional features which are there in accounting. Like first, summarizing. Now, what is the meaning of this summarizing? After you have classified which transaction is a sale transaction, which transaction will go under the head of purchase transaction, we do the totaling of all the sales made during the period. We do the totaling of all the purchases made during the period. This is called summarizing. Then we do analysis and interpretation. Analysis and interpretation means we find out how much is our profit. Then we try to figure out, we earned a profit of 1 lakh by making a sales of 3 lakh. So if we want a profit of 2 lakhs, then how much sales we have to make? This is called analysis and interpretation of the summarized results. And then these results we communicate to the owner of the business entity for various decision making, how to expand the business or whether he should shut down the business, etc. So this is what is the difference between bookkeeping and accounting. So if somebody will ask you what is the difference between bookkeeping and accounting, you will say bookkeeping is the first stage of accounting and accounting is the secondary stage. Accounting starts where bookkeeping ends. Bookkeeping involves 4 activities: identifying the transaction, the activities which involves exchange of money and resources between two or more parties and which brings a change in the financial position of the entity is called transaction. So identify the transaction. Sale of food, payment of salary to chef, all these are called transactions. So पहले identify करो, then measure their monetary value. How much money value is involved on those activities? Then record it. And then classify it. Which transaction will go under the head of sales, which will go under the head of purchase, which will go under the head of rent, which will go under the head of electricity. This is where the bookkeeping ends. Now, after that, do summarizing. Summarizing means find out total sales, total purchase, total rent paid, total electricity incurred during a given period. After that, you have to find out the profits using the summarized results, and those profits will help you to analyze and interpret your financial performance and position, and it will help you in various decision making, which these results will be then communicated to the owner and higher authorities. So from summarizing till the communication stage is called accounting. So accounting starts where the bookkeeping ends. So our next topic of discussion is meaning of accounting cycle. Now, after we have identified and measured the transactions, then the accounting cycle begins. So first we have to identify the transactions, then we have to measure them in money terms, and after that the accounting cycle begins. Accounting cycle is a complete sequence beginning with the recording of the transaction and ending with the preparation of final accounts. So accounting cycle starts with, what does it starts with? It starts with the recording of the transaction, and after recording the transaction, it ends with the preparation of final accounts. Final accounts means preparation of income statement to find out how much profit or loss that entity has earned or incurred during a particular accounting period, and preparation of balance sheet. Balance sheet basically tells us how much assets and what are the assets which the entity owns and what are the liabilities which the entity owes. The steps which are involved in an accounting cycle are, first is journalizing. Journalizing means we have to record the transactions in the journal. Second is posting. Whatever transactions we have recorded in the journal, we have to then post them in the respective accounts opened in the ledger book. So sales transaction will go to sales head in the ledger book, purchase transaction will go to purchase head in the ledger book, electricity will go to electricity head in the ledger book. So like this, all the transactions which we have recorded in the journal book will be then transferred to the respective accounts opened in the ledger book. Step 3 is balancing. Balancing means we have to find out the difference between the total of the debit amount column and total of the credit amount column of a ledger account. That is what is called balancing, which we are going to study in details subsequently. Then we have trial balance. Trial balance is a statement which shows the balances of each and every account to verify whether the sum of the debit balances is equal to the sum of the credit balances. Again, trial balance also we are going to learn subsequently. Then we have income statement. Income statement is concerned with determination of profit or loss for the accounting period. Accounting period is generally of 1 year. And it involves the preparation of trading and profit and loss account. And last step, step number 6 is preparation of balance sheet. Balance sheet is a statement which shows the position of assets and liability as at the end of a particular accounting period. So once again, what is accounting cycle? After identifying and measuring the financial transactions, the accounting cycle begins. Accounting cycle is a complete sequence beginning with the recording of the transaction and ending with the preparation of final accounts. The steps involved in accounting cycle are journalizing, then posting, then balancing, then trial balance, then income statement, and then position statement. These are the 6 steps which are involved in accounting cycle. Okay. The next topic of discussion is users of an accounting information. Who are the users of accounting information and why they need the accounting information is our next topic of discussion. So let us discuss the next topic, which is users of an accounting information and their needs. Basically, the users of financial information are those persons who needs the information about a business besides the owners and managers. So who all needs the financial information besides the owner and the managers of the business? They are banks, customers, bankers, customers, suppliers. After suppliers, the information is also needed by employees, regulatory agencies, government to collect taxes, the users of the accounting information are divided into 2 categories: internal users and external users. Internal users are owners, managers, they are employees. External users are banks, lending institutions, suppliers, customers, government agencies, regulatory authorities, then taxing agencies. So these are called external users. Now the question is, why do they need financial information? Why is the financial information of an entity required by internal and external users? The first reason is in order to evaluate the risks and make informed decisions. Second is lenders and other creditors want some surety that they will be paid. Customers want to have a reliable source. Government, regulatory and taxing authorities want information. In order to monitor the compliance with laws and regulations, owners and managers need information to properly manage and run a profitable business. So once again, users of accounting information, who all need the information provided by accounts besides owners and managers? Besides owners and managers, the accounting information is required by creditors, then by investors, then management, employees, taxing authorities, customers, government and their agencies, public. These are the various people who require accounting information. Accounting information, the users of the accounting information are divided into 2 types. One is internal, second one is external. So let us read this theory from here, and then we also discussed why the users need the accounting information. So let us now discuss and read the theory which is given over here. The users of accounting information include present and potential investors. Present investors and potential investors, management, employees, lenders, suppliers, and trade creditors. Management means the board of directors. Government and their agencies. These users can use accounting information in order to satisfy some of their varied needs for information. Some of the users and the needs for information are shown below. First one, short-term creditors. For example, who are short-term creditors? Suppliers of raw materials and goods, then supplier of short-term loans are short-term creditors. What information do they need from the accounting? How is the what kind of accounting information do they need? Short-term creditors need information to know about the amount owing to them and whether the entity would be able to arrange sufficient cash flows to meet their outstanding dues. So the answer to this information question, they get it from the accounting information. Then long-term creditors. Examples of long-term creditors are suppliers of long-term loans. Long-term creditors need information to determine whether their principal and the interest thereof will be paid when due, and whether they should extend, maintain, or restrict the flow of credit to an enterprise. Whether they should give more credit, whether they should reduce the credit, whether they should maintain the flow of credit. The answer to all these questions comes from the information given by accounts. Present investors. Present investors means equity shareholders. Present investors need information to judge prospects for their investment and to determine whether they should buy, hold, or sell the shares. Potential investors. Potential investors need information to judge prospects of an enterprise and to determine whether they should buy the shares of the company or the entity or not. Management needs information to review the firm's short-term solvency, long-term solvency, then activity, utilization of resources, profitability in relation to sales, profitability in relation to investment, and to decide upon the course of action to be taken in future. Employees also need accounting information. They also use the accounting information. Now the question is, for what purpose? Employees and their groups are interested in information about the stability and profitability of the employers. They are interested in the information because this information will enable them to assess the ability of the entity to pay the remuneration, retirement benefits, and to provide employment opportunities. Tax authorities need information to assess the tax liability of the entity. Customers have an interest in information about the continuation of an entity, especially when they have established a long-term involvement with or are dependent on the entity. Government and their agencies. Government and their agencies are interested in the allocation of resources and therefore the activities of the enterprise. What kind of activity the enterprise is carrying on, all these information they are interested to know. They also require information in order to regulate the activities of the enterprise. Determine taxation policies, frame taxation policies, and the basis for the national income and similar statistics. Public. Enterprise affect the members of the public in a variety of ways. For example, enterprise may make a substantial contribution to the local economy in many ways, including the number of people they employ and the patronage of the local suppliers. Financial statement may assist the public by providing information about trends and recent developments in the prosperity of the enterprise and the range of its activities. While all the information needs of these users cannot be made by financial statements, there may also some needs which are common to all the users. The information contents of the financial statements which meet the information needs of the investors or providers of risk capital will also meet most of the needs of other users. So these are the users of the financial statements. So functions of accounting is our next topic of discussion. Now in functions of accounting, first is measurement. if you read, accounting measures the past performance of the business. Generally, an accounting year starts from 1st April and it will end on 31st March, and it will comprise of 365 days, 12 months. What all we have done in those 365 days is measured by accounting, and it depicts our current financial position on 31st March, that is at the end of a year, an accounting year, which is we prepare P&L account and balance sheet to find out the profit and to find out the position, our solvency position, how much we own and how much we owe to the outsiders. Second, forecasting. Forecasting is basically concerned with projections about future. So accounting helps in forecasting future performance. How will be our future performance? What will be our future performance? What will be our future profits? What will be our future solvency position? Can be determined on the basis of accounting by using the past data. So on the basis of past information, we predict our future performance and future position. Accounting helps in decision making, whether to expand the business, whether the business is going into profits, whether the business is going into losses, whether we should continue the business, whether we should discontinue the business. So accounting helps in decision making. Okay, the next one is comparison and evaluation. Accounting assesses performance achieved in relation to targets. So the next function is comparison and evaluation. At the beginning of every year, an entity first sets a target in its mind that we will make 2 lakh units ka sales. And then at the end of the accounting period, when we prepare accounts, we get to know whether we have achieved the target or not. This is what is the meaning of comparison. So what we at the beginning of the year decided to, the target which we have set for ourselves at the beginning of the year, did we meet that target? Did we cross that target, or we couldn't cross the target? We can find it out through accounting. And it also gives the information about the accounting policies followed by the entity. And it also gives the information about the contingent liability. Contingent liability means a liability which may or may not become payable depending upon happening or non-happening of certain events, which we will discuss more in details in subsequent classes. So number 1, measurement. Number 2, forecasting. Number 3, decision making. Number 4, comparison. And number 5 is control. Control. Accounting identifies the weaknesses of operational system. Operational system means the routine business activity of an entity. Say for example, we are into airlines business. So accounting helps us to identify our weaknesses, drawbacks in our core business activities. How many flights are coming, how many flights are going, all these informations are operational system. So it helps us to identify, are there any drawbacks or weaknesses in our core business activities. And not only this, after identifying the weaknesses in the core business activities and the routine business operations, it also gives us feedbacks. It helps us to find out whether the steps which we have taken to remove those drawbacks, hurdles, are they working, are they effective measures, and thereby helps us to improve further. Then government regulation and taxation. Accounting provides necessary information to the government authorities to maintain a control on the entity and as well as to collect tax revenues from the entity. So these are the functions of accounting. The first limitation of accounting is that it ignores the qualitative elements. Accounting records only those transactions and events which can be measured in terms of money. So any transaction and events which is not capable of being measured in terms of money is ignored by accounting. So it becomes one of its limitations. Now, how it becomes one of its limitations? See, the success of a business not only depends upon the other factors, but it also depends upon the quality of management. If the employees who are working for us they are honest, they don't do any cheating, then definitely our business ka chances of being successful will be more. But since honesty of an employee cannot be measured in terms of money, this aspect is ignored by accounting. So it becomes one of the limitations of accounting. We will come back to the second point and third point. First, let us see the fourth point. It ignores the price level changes in case of financial statements prepared on historical cost. See, the value of money always changes due to inflation. A cup of coffee which we bought 5 years ago for 10 rupees may be costing today 15 rupees. So the time value of money always changes due to inflation. Under existing accounting systems, accounts are maintained considering historical cost, and we ignore the current changed value. As a result, what happens? The accounts maintained fail to show the exact financial position of a business concern in today's money value terms. So it becomes one of the drawbacks of the accounting information. Now let us come back to the second point. Not free from bias in many situations. This means that recommendation of alternative methods. There exists an application of alternative methods in determining depreciation of assets and valuation of stock. The accounting provides us with various alternatives. We can charge depreciation as per written down value method. We can charge depreciation as per straight line method. We can value the closing stock as per FIFO, as per average method, as per LIFO method. So a lot of options is given. When a lot of alternatives are given, sometimes the businessman for their personal benefits can adopt a method which will enhance the profits or which will decrease the profits, whichever thing will suit their present needs. So as a result, the information becomes misleading if an alternative method is used to just achieve a particular personal objective. So it becomes a limitation or a drawback of accounting. Then the next limitation is accounting is not fully exact. It does not show the real position. There are some transactions which are recorded on the basis of estimation. Say, for example, when we purchase a fixed asset, we estimate what would be the useful life of that fixed asset. And on the basis of that useful life of fixed asset, we start depreciating the fixed asset. That useful life may later increase or decrease. So the information provided by accounting is not necessary that it will be fully exact. Another example can be when we sell goods to our customer and we have to receive money from them. If there is a doubt regarding the collection of money from them, then we estimate how much money we would not be able to recover from them, and we provide for that loss in our accounts. But such determination of estimated loss is actually the determination of expected loss is basically an estimation. It is not an exact amount. So accounting is not fully exact. It does not provide us the real information. It is based on a lot of estimations which may differ or may change our entire position later. The last limitation is danger of window dressing. Window dressing means manipulation of accounts in a way so as to conceal the vital facts. Sometimes the entity wants to take a loan from the bank. Bank will give a loan only if the entity has a profit. So what entities can do, they can make some fake entries, notional entries, just to show more profits. Actually, the entity is in loss, but by making some false and fake entries, it has in the books of accounts, it is showing some profits. This is called window dressing. So if it is doing window dressing, the information shown by the accounting is not reliable, is not true, it is not fair. So the income statement fails to provide the correct information, and we can land up taking wrong decisions, which becomes one of the limitations of accounting. So the next topic of discussion is subfields of accounting. Like when you go to a ice cream parlor, ice cream shop, there are so many flavors of ice creams which are available. Similarly, there are many flavors of accounting. There are 5 flavors of accounting. The first one is financial accounting. Financial accounting involves preparation of P&L account and balance sheet to find out the profit earned by the business entity and to know the position of assets and liabilities. That is how much money the entity owns and how much it owes. If it owes more than what it owns, then it means that the financial position is not nice. So financial accounting basically helps the entity to determine the performance and position of the entity. Now, why is financial accounting important? Because this information is required by government, customer, lender, supplier, prospective investor, existing investor, employees, public, all of them, they need this information. So this P&L account and balance sheet is prepared, and the preparation of P&L account and balance sheet is covered under the subfield of financial accounting. Now, many of them feel, sir, we are giving our information to so many outsiders. Sir, isn't it risky? We are not giving our internal secrets. We are not giving our internal secrets. We are just giving our position of profit and we are giving our position of solvency. And we are not giving our internal secrets to the outsiders. So this is known as financial accounting. The next one is management accounting. The next one is management accounting. So it is concerned with internal reporting to the managers. Now, what do we mean by internal reporting? Basically, internal report is a document that communicates important information to people inside the organization. These documents are designed to be viewed and evaluated only by individuals who are working within the institution. Internal reports should be carefully identified because they contain sensitive information about the business performance and the development in the different areas. And internal reports are generally created by employees from the organization, and they are delivered or intended to be delivered to employees in the organization. So they are created also by the employees from the organization, and they are delivered to higher level authorities, to higher level employees in the organization. The reports can deal with matters like finance, sales, marketing, human resource, etc. Generally, company classify these documents as confidential in order to avoid accidental or unintended disclosure or intended disclosures. And staff members within the organization are also frequently asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement to avoid the leakage of such sensitive information. Because if this sensitive information is leaked and it becomes disclosed to public, then it affects the share price, etc. For the company. Say, for example, one company was there, XYZ pharmaceutical company. I forgot the name actually. There was a company called XYZ pharmaceutical company. It produces drugs for cardiovascular disease. And the company has specialized in this field since many number of years. And it was now working on a drug that increases the level of oxygen in the blood to help the brain activity. So whoever was the project manager, he issued an internal report that contained several observations about the drug's behavior and the results obtained during the human trial phase. the tests revealed certain side effects that were undesirable for potential clients. So the managers of the company advised to change some of the components to reduce the number of side effects. However, the report got leaked and then the company suffered a huge loss. Company ka share price decreased. So basically what I'm trying to put in your head is management accounting deals with is concerned with internal reporting. So I hope so now you understood what is internal reporting. Internal reporting are internal documents which contain sensitive information which are prepared by the employees in the organization and which are meant for the employees in the organization. And these internal reporting can be related to marketing, sales, strategy, financial strategies, and other sensitive information. And these are meant for the managers and employees of the organization to discharge the functions of stewardship. Stewardship matlab you are responsible for something. Stewardship means the job of supervising or taking care of something, such as an organization. The job of supervising or taking care of something such as an organization. So managers are responsible for taking care of organization. To discharge this function, to carry out this role of taking care of the organization, to carry out the role of planning, control and decision making, the management needs a variety of information. The directors, the higher level authority, CEO, chief executive officer, CFOs, they need a lot of information apart from the information provided by financial accounting. Financial accounting only gives us the information of profits and how much we owe and how much we own. But apart from that, a lot of other informations, future sales strategies, upcoming sales strategies, marketing strategies, upcoming way of arranging finances, and internally what is going on in the organization, the drug, what is the progress of drug on the human trial, what is the side effects of the products which we are dealing in. So all these informations are required by the managers for discharging their functions of planning, control and decision making. This is referred to as management accounting. The different ways of gathering these information and preparing reports and submitting those reports to the top level management so that the top level management can take care of the organization, can discharge the function of planning and decision making. The reports which are required to be submitted by the lower level employees to the higher level employees is known as management accounting. So this is what is known as management accounting. The next subfield of accounting is cost accounting. Cost account is basically concerned with determination of cost price of the product with the intention of determining the selling price of the product. Say for example, Hindustan Unilever is dealing in soaps. One of the products in which it deals is soaps. It manufactures soaps. It wants to decide at what price it should sell a soap. So it will find out the raw material cost involved 10 rupees, labor cost involved 10 rupees in manufacturing the soap, factory rent, electricity and other expenses incurred to manufacture soap 10 rupees. The total money incurred is so basically we were talking about cost accounting. Cost accounting is concerned with the determination of cost of the product and how to control those costs and identifying the areas where we are incurring excessive costs and thereby taking measures to control those costs. So say for example, we are manufacturing soap, and if we are manufacturing soap, 10 rupees we are spending on raw material, 10 rupees we are spending on labor, 10 rupees we are spending on other material cost, and our total cost is coming to 30 rupees. So when our total cost is coming to 30 rupees, Now we can decide upon what will be the selling price. We can find out the areas where the cost is more. We can take measures to reduce it, which is called cost accounting. Okay. Then we have social responsibility accounting. Social responsibility accounting, if you read this paragraph, it is saying the demand for social responsibility accounting stems from increasing social awareness about the undesirable byproducts of economic activities. As already discussed earlier, social responsibility accounting is concerned with accounting for social costs incurred by the enterprise and social benefits created. Social responsibility accounting measures how much is the harm an entity is causing to the environment and how much benefit it is generating by causing that harm to the environment. If the benefit caused to the environment, harm caused to the environment is more than the benefit derived, this is what is social responsibility accounting measures. So social responsibility accounting is basically aims to measure and inform the general public about the social welfare activities undertaken by the entity and their effects on the society. Say, for example, giving blood donations and working at a food bank or animal shelter, then advocating for child labor laws, fair trade practices, then recycling. All these are the examples of social responsibility. But the question is, why do we need social responsibility accounting? See, we need social responsibility accounting to ensure proper utilization of resources by the company and minimum wastage, and to ensure that the company does some welfare towards the society, because they are taking the inputs from the society, so they have a little welfare obligation towards the societies. And this is what is called social responsibility accounting. The last one is human resource accounting. Human resource accounting basically measures how much investment are we making in human resource of an organization that are not presently accounted, because we cannot measure them in terms of money. Say, for example, Yashas Academy. How much money is it spending? Not money. Human resource accounting is basically an attempt to identify, quantify and report investments made in human resources. So Yashas Academy has so many employees. Human resource accounting identifies how are we taking care of those employees, how much investment we are making in those employees, how we are training them. All these things, what is the quality of the employees who are working for Yashas Academy, their skills, their upgradation of skills. All these are measured under human resource accounting. So this completes our first unit, first part of the theoretical chapter. We are ready to do these MCQs. So you can solve these MCQs. Answers we have already given to you all. And then we will go to the second part of this chapter. Thank you.